And I'm very happy to invite up our guest speaker for the day, Colleen Russell. Colleen?
Why did you come here this morning? Because you like having somewhere to go on a Sunday morning? Because you want your children to attend religious education classes and you need them to have somewhere to go this morning? Only you discovered at the last minute that there was no class. And we're making the best, and you had to make the best of it. Because you're scheduled to usher or make coffee or do a reading or play music. Because you want to see for yourself this UU church you've heard about and might consider joining. Because you want to hear Jamie's signature wisdom and insight, and now you're kicking yourself because I'm up here instead, and you're thinking you would have rather finished the New York Times at home. Because you want to be part of something bigger than yourself. Get out of your head and get out of your house. Because you want to see friends you've made here, connect with like-minded people, and maybe meet some new kindred spirits. Because you feel like you belong. Being a member of a church is one of many ways to belong. You can also belong to a family, by birth, by adoption, by marriage. You can belong to the school you attended. You can belong by way of the school you attended. Maybe you cheer for the basketball team and you meet with fellow alums to watch games. In fact, the purpose of alumni associations is to foster a feeling of belonging, so you'll give the school money. An enthusiastic IU alum once told me, "I bleed crimson and cream." And I thought, wow, he takes his college connection seriously. His son, of course, chose to attend Purdue. In high school, did you sit at the cool lunch table? Did you take honors classes? After school, did you go to chess club? Did you go to rugby practice? Did you go to choir rehearsal? You can belong to a branch of the military and feel forever connected to your fellow Marines or Navy pilots. If you were in combat, you're connected to people who literally you were in the trenches with. You can belong to a nationality, even if you're several generations removed from the old country, as my father would have called it. I grew up with a lot of people whose parents or grandparents had immigrated from Eastern Europe after World War II. And while many people resented those foreigners, and the term DP, for displaced person, was still used occasionally in the 70s, I was a little envious of their ethnicity, for having a special Christmas Eve fish dish, or a grandmother who spoke Polish. Arriving more recently than I, they seemed so much more connected to their heritage than I was. We can belong to a neighborhood because we can afford to live there, because we like a certain style of house, because there are kids for ours to play with, or because we like the nearby school, because we walk our dogs at the same time each evening, so we know everyone else who has a dog too. Conversely, these ways we belong can also serve to exclude. In families, sometimes we make distinctions as to who is more entitled to be part of that family. We have the adopted cousin, the stepsister, my father's wife. I have several relatives who are deeply into genealogy and can trace branches of our family back to specific counties in Ireland. As an adoptive parent, I often think, are my children entitled to claim such heritage? Does it matter? Are family ties the result of biology, or do they result from proximity and shared experience? Services such as Ancestry.com and 23andMe can test your DNA and tell you what part of the world your ancestors lived in, or who you are biologically related to. But that information could also be used to exclude people, to say you're not part of our tribe, you're illegitimate. There are neighborhoods we're excluded from because the houses are too expensive, or we have the wrong color skin, or we speak the wrong language. Often there are gates to remind us we don't belong. Country clubs may bring together people who like to play golf, but they're also an effective way to distance yourself from people who can't afford the five-figure membership fee. The same goes for elite private schools. We may claim they're better, by which we ostensibly mean academically, but the effort and expense required to attend those schools pretty much guarantees we're insulated from people who are poor or otherwise not like us. And then there are groups we don't want to belong to because it's not appropriate. You're not a carpenter, so you don't belong to the Carpenters Union. You didn't fight in Vietnam or Korea, so you don't join the VFW. You're not an alcoholic, so you don't attend AA meetings. I work as a math tutor at North Central High School in a department that primarily serves students with special needs, including those who have recently immigrated to the United States. So I regularly work with students from countries such as Rwanda, Congo, Syria, Burma, as well as Mexico, Guatemala, Venezuela, and other Latin American countries. Many of these kids have fled violence and persecution in those countries, and that's why they're here. And I probably learn as much about these kids as they learn, I probably learn as much about the world from these kids as they learn about math from me. And I find it fascinating that my corner of Indianapolis, of all places, is such a melting pot of international cultures. I enjoy working with these newcomers because, by the way, they are happy to do their homework because now they live in a place where they can go to school and nobody is trying to kill them. How hard can geometry be by comparison? Last year, when I had a student read me the directions to an algebra problem I was helping him with, which I often do to make sure the kids are paying attention, I realized he didn't understand English as well as I thought when he read the words graph the solution, meaning what are the x and y coordinates, as graph the salvation. This got me thinking, what would the graph of salvation look like? Would some of us start at 0 and go straight up? Would there be all kinds of curves on our spiritual journey? For those not saved, would it be straight down? Like I said, I learn a lot from these kids. Unlike me, however, many of our fellow citizens don't feel enriched by the presence of new immigrants, as we loudly and violently see in the news every day. The big question is, who belongs in the United States? Are you an American because of the number of generations your ancestors have been here? Because they came over on the Mayflower or settled in Jamestown? By the way, my relatives in Virginia tell me the Mayflower versus Jamestown one-upmanship still rages on. Because you're a daughter of the American Revolution? Because your great-grandparents passed through Ellis Island? I love to watch British police shows. My favorite is Foyle's War, about a policeman investigating crimes in a small town in England during World War II. And a common theme on the show is the once grand estate, which is now dilapidated amid the devastation of war. And the once grand entitled family is essentially in ruins too. And one of my favorite lines from the show, and at the same time the line I hate the most, has the lord of the manor saying, in the stuffiest accent imaginable, "This land was given to my family by William the Conqueror." And every time I see this, I think, this is why my ancestors left England. And fortunately, these pompous aristocrats usually turn out to be the bad guys in the episode. The ancestors of most African Americans, enslaved people, were here long before the huge wave of Europeans came to the United States in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Yet we regularly see Black Americans treated as if they don't belong. If you've arrived more recently, do you belong because you're white? Because you're a native English speaker? Because you have the education and professional experience to be considered a productive member of society? Or because you came across the ocean by plane rather than crossing the southern border on foot? Sometimes you can claim whether you do or don't belong, and sometimes others tell you whether you belong. You can't afford the house, you don't have good enough grades, you're not a blood relative, you're not a real American. It's natural for people to separate into manageable sized groups with like-minded people. After all, everyone can't belong to the same group. There are various organizations to serve varying needs. At UUI, we say we are a welcoming community. We have radical welcoming training. We make an effort to introduce ourselves to visitors. But implicit in our welcoming philosophy is that those we welcome are well-intentioned and striving to do good. We don't welcome racist or homophobic behavior or any behavior that hurts our fellow human beings. At UUI, we say we welcome people of all faiths or no faiths. Jamie infuses his sermons with ideas from many religious traditions. And we often join with other churches, which may be different theologically but like-minded socially, for social justice efforts. But a fundamentalist Christian, for example, would not likely be comfortable here, as you or I would probably not feel we belonged in a place of worship that depended on a creed or a statement of belief. That's why there are all manner of churches. We choose to belong to the one that comforts us the most. So at UUI, like the wider world, there are limits to whom and where we belong, where it makes sense to belong and where it doesn't make sense. Some of this belonging is reasonable and necessary, and some of it is an excuse to exclude others. I found that UU churches tend to attract refugees from other religions. So most of us are not UUs by birth. We probably don't come here because we were baptized into it, or our family has belonged for generations, or because it's the church closest to where we live. We make a conscious choice to be here because it's where we feel we belong. And you have chosen to be here today, perhaps for the long haul, perhaps just for today. At last week's service, David Jackaway, our board president, and Jamie Hinson-Rieger, our director of ministry, spoke about their participation in June in General Assembly, the annual gathering of Unitarian Universalists from across the country, which took place in Kansas City. And while several days of meetings are not my idea of a good time, I'm glad Jamie and David and others participate to share their reflections and insights with the rest of us. I would have been one of the people Jamie talked about who was happy to sort the recycling at the conference. Jamie described the sometimes contentious sessions as UUs figuring out a new way to be together. David, recounting social justice issues discussed at GA, said, "We are not in this alone." I found those words immensely comforting and encouraging, given that nearly every day lately I wake with a knot in my stomach. They both emphasized that GA consisted of people working together for a common good. That's what any of us seeks when we join a group. Because working together can be so much more satisfying and effective than working alone. We belong. We are not in this alone. That's what keeps me coming back here.